So, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind a lot recently. So, it actually came from a coaching session. And I was in the middle of the session the other day, and my client was talking about next year. She was talking about wanting to do things differently, saying no more often, putting herself first for a change. And as she was talking, this thought popped into my head. Actually, it was more like a question. And that question was, how often do we actually say no, thank you? And I don't mean no thank you because, or no thank you followed by a whole bloody TED talk, like over explaining, justifying, the slightly apologetic ramble that usually isn't even true. Because let's be honest, right? Every time we do this, the whatever follows the because is just a bunch of lies. Because it's not about the reason, it's about the fact that we're setting a boundary. And that can feel widely uncomfortable. So that got me thinking, is setting boundaries something that we learn or something we unlearn? And actually, a few days later, I got my answer. So I was walking with my partner Sam and our daughter Harlow, she's 4, and a group of parents and kids from her school. And we were heading to the pub to celebrate the kids' Christmas show. Anyway, Harlow is on the scooter, and the other kids are walking, and one of her friends decides that she wants to borrow the scooter. Harlow says no. So the little girl gets really upset and starts to go in a full on temper tantrum. Now, at this point, Sam, my partner, just steps in and goes to Harlow and just says, come on, share, sharing is caring, all of that stuff. And Harlow says she doesn't want to. So he persists. And that's when something really clicked for me. See, Harlow wasn't being difficult or unkind. She was just stating a boundary. It was her scooter. Her upset had nothing to do with Harlow. Harlow just stood firm. Her upset was about her inability to understand what a boundary was. For Harlow, there was no drama, no guilt, no explanation, just a no. It made me realize something really important is that we are born knowing what feels okay and what doesn't. We are born knowing how to set boundaries. We don't overthinking, we don't justify it, we just know. But at some point along the way, we're taught to override that instinct and to act according to what's acceptable instead. See, I don't blame Sam for what happened because in that moment, in the same way that the little girl was reacting to her discomfort, Sam was reacting to his own. He might have been thinking, what might the other parent might think? He might have been scared for his little girl to be excluded if she didn't share. Or he might have been worried to be labeled as a bad parent. And that's how it starts. We start learning that other people's comfort matters more than our own inner no. And slowly we start learning that it's not okay to have boundaries. We start learning that we should act in a way that please others and make others comfortable rather than feeling safe within ourselves. We unlearn our boundaries. So you might be asking, shouldn't we teach our children to share? But I think we're asking the wrong question. See, the goal of sharing is connection. Kids learn that from a very young age. They learn that connection is incredibly important and it's what will allow them to evolve and grow in the world because we need each other. They know innately that they need others. That ability for connection is built within us. And kids find out that the best way for them to connect is to share their toys and to communicate. And you see them doing that naturally. We don't need to teach them how to share. And in that moment, if Haru hadn't shared a toy, and that not sharing her toy would have costed her being part of the group, she would have very quickly adapted her behavior on her own and would have gone and shared anyway. In fact, I've seen her doing that several times in the past. That is because she has an innate ability for insights and realization, a wisdom and instinct that will tell her when her own safety is at risk, because let's not forget connection is safety. We need that sense of cohesion and connection. So connection is always on our mind. Connection is always the number one goal that we have in everything that we do, not just as children, but as adults as well. What's actually a risk when we force our children to share? Isn't sharing, isn't connection? What's at risk is teaching them to override themselves. Children say no and then they move on. Adults say no and then we spiral. Think about it, right? How often does your no come with a justification? I'm not drinking tonight. I've got an early call tomorrow. Or I won't come out. I've got an early gym session. Or no wine for me. I've got a busy day. By the way, I'm still catching myself doing all of this. I was at a restaurant with some friends the other day and I was trying to understand why do I feel the need to justify when I don't want to drink alcohol. And I realized the reason I was doing this is because I was afraid that my not drinking would make people around me uncomfortable and so that they would feel that they should not drink either. But not only that thought was only happening in my head, it wasn't true. The most important thing is that I wasn't responsible for other people's discomfort. It's as if I don't want to isn't enough, as if rest needs to be earned or a preference needs a reason. But you know what we're really saying here? What we're really saying here is please don't judge me. Please don't feel uncomfortable around me. Please still approve of me. But here's the interesting part. The moment you simply say no, thank you, and just stop there, no more, it feels exhilarating. Uncomfortable for sure, but also just grounded and powerful. And you know why? Because for a moment here, you are not managing anyone else's emotions, limitations, expectations. You're not negotiating your worth. You're not selling yourself to keep the peace. You're just standing with yourself. You're just doing something incredibly, innately natural to you. Something that you've known to do before you could even walk and talk. Setting a boundary. And that's a power move. So here is a little experiment for you. The next time that you feel the urge to explain, justify, or slightly soften your no, just pause and see what happens if you simply say, no, thank you, and just let it hang there. Let the slight discomfort hang there. You're going to be okay. Let just that no, thank you be enough. Good luck.